Well, joining us today on this edition of Meet City Hall is no new face to City Hall. It's our city manager, Marcia Hampton.
Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you for joining us today, and you are no new face. You've been around these City Hall facilities for how long with us now?
For 13 years.
13 years.
Yes.
And in your career path, kind of give us a little roadmap. Where did you begin and process along the way?
Back in 2003, I started with the city as the Main Street manager. And about 18 months into the job, I learned that my boss at the time, who was the community development director, was leaving to take on another role. So that position stayed vacant for about a year. And I guess I was the person in the department that everybody kind of turned to fill in the gap, and so did recently retired city manager Bill Osborne. So one day I sent him an email and I said, I think I would like for you to consider me for the job. And he didn't respond.
Bold move.
Yeah, he did not. He did not respond, and it probably took another 6 months or so before he responded, and he started, I think, taking me seriously.
Right.
So, and then at that point, back in, I guess that would have been 2006 or so, somewhere around, that I was promoted to that position. So it took a little bit, but you know, I was actually happy being Main Street manager, but then of course getting that promotion, and then just time went on. A lot of projects I was able to do here at the city, including things downtown, and somewhere about 5 years ago, he approached me and said, you know, what do you think about being city manager? And I said to him, I actually hadn't thought about being city manager. And he said, well, give it some time. And from that point moving forward, I said, well, I think I'll consider it. So I guess I'd say each of the roles that I've progressed in here at the city have more been due to maybe somebody looking at me in that role rather than myself looking in that role, because I had not been focused on that. You know, I've always tried to stay focused on the role that I'm in, but definitely appreciative that somebody saw something in me and they felt worthy enough to decide that I could take the next step.
Well, I know in the 10 years that I've been here and that we've worked together, I've seen you just advance and do your work and your projects and assignments with great excellence. And so December 7th, I believe it was the day that changed your life forevermore? It
was, and you know, I was thinking about this actually the other day. Last year was such a bittersweet year for me in general. You know, earlier in January I lost my dad, and then to end the year, I became appointed as city manager, and I'll say that 2015 almost, it was just kind of like a whirlwind of emotional things that happened. And so becoming city manager, the city manager retiring, just coming really a week after a runoff election with our current mayor at the time and with our new mayor today. So there's just a lot of work that I knew the moment that I was appointed as city manager, I was not going to be able to take a breath. It was going to be hurry up and run. And literally that's what we've done.
Right.
Yeah.
The other day the guys and I were talking and they said it feels like we're drinking from a fire hose. And I said, well, let's change the perspective. We're playing in the fire hose rather than drinking from it so we don't drown. So, and I'm sure that's probably an analogy of what it has felt like these last, 60 days or so? Yeah,
and then when you're in a staff role, and you know this, you know, we operate in a sense that we want to make certain that mayor and council are effective and making certain that they are doing their jobs very well. So you really don't have time to slow down when you're starting a new administration, and then really that's the lesson that I've learned, because not only do you want to make certain that they're effective as a new person, but you want to make certain that things are running seamlessly. So I didn't anticipate probably the amount of work that carries along with that. That not only are you training newbies, but you're also getting those who have been with us for a little bit acclimated to the newer people, so that when they come out, they're gelled together. So, you know, that takes a little bit of finesse. And then also, you know, me as the city manager now, that's a different role for people with staff. So I have to be mindful of that. Even though I may know the direction that I want to go in, I have to be able to make certain that all of my team is with me in the direction that I'm going. So it's a lot.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, when you look at the office of city manager, you have that legislative arm,
right,
where you're managing the mayor, the council, all of the legislative, the policies and everything being set, but you also have that personnel end, and that is keeping the city going and running on a daily basis.
Right, right. And the other part too is that you have to make certain that people are on board, and we're in a role where, you know, I was thinking about this one day. I said it's almost like walking in drill when I was in the military. At any given time, somebody can yell out right flank or left flank, and you have to be prepared to turn. Yeah. And if you turn the wrong way, it could be disastrous. Yes. So, I mean, and really that's how we operate. So when we swore in this new group, even though there are people who have been with us for a while, they're essentially a new group.
Right.
And really with the change in the city manager, even though many of us have been here a long time, we, in a sense, are a new group as well, because the expectations are different. My leadership style and management style is completely different from the prior city manager, and the policies that are sent down to us to affect and change are different from this group. So it really is the ability to shift and change your mindset on a dime and make certain that there's no casualties along the way.
Right. Yeah. And just even as recent as an email that you just sent out this morning, you know, it's great directive to know that we have a mayor and council that are in place. They understand their role to set the policies for the city, the governing of a very large corporation, a very large business. Right. And then the day-to-day operations are left here within the hands of the city manager and the senior staff to make sure that we get everything done that they're looking for us to do. Right. So far, I'm excited. Yeah. We mentioned this weekend at our retreat. It's been like a breath of fresh air. Yes. We're able to move forward and accomplish, I think, a lot of visions. And that would be probably one of my questions for you here is, what do you see as a vision for the city moving forward under your direction?
Well, I just see that I can envision on my last day that when I turn around, it can be something that I'm proud of, that I've been able to empower a group of people to lead, and maybe in some sense that there's somebody who's here that can basically step into a role that I've served in that can even take it further than I have. That to me is success. Anything that I'm able to do that I have been able to help to assist to improve somebody's quality of life, and whether that be individually, the department directors in their career, that they have been able to affect change that they're managing in their respective areas, and that the public can look at us and say, man, that is a hard-working group of people. I'm so proud of those staff members. The customer service that they provide is at the highest level. That to me is what I see. I don't really see any specific thing, but I just see a specific change. And not to say that we haven't been there, and not to say that what I'm handed is broken. No, what I'm handed I can improve. Right. And I'm certain that when I hand off something to somebody, they will be able to improve on that as well. You know, I just recently, you know, I reflect on a lot of things that have happened, and I go back to my, you know, Girl Scout days of you leave a place better than when you found it. You just have to. And if you're given something and you don't do that, I feel like you do it a disservice. So if I see my vision is that I've empowered the staff to take control of their respective areas, and each of us will be able to grow respectively in our career into that next step.
And then that just filters on down to those who we direct underneath us and probably interface with the public on a more regular basis than even we do. Yeah. So what a great message to say to the city and to our constituents and the citizens that public service, public servanthood is at the core of what we do on a daily basis.
It is.
Is that what I hear you say?
It is. It's not for everybody, but for those who serve in the public, they understand that. They understand that it's not about that individual, but it's about the people who we serve. And those who are true public servants, it emanates in any and everything that they do. You would never have to you wouldn't have to say to somebody, you are a public servant. You'd see it in everything that they do.
Right. Yeah. Well, just for little hard stats, how many employees do we have?
275.
275.
Yes.
Do you know the breakdowns somewhat, by at least by close percentage, by the different departments? I know our police department covers a large portion of that.
Out of that 275, about 40 of those are part-time employees. We have 94 employees in the police department. We have about 50 in the maintenance and sanitation department, about another 60 in Parks and Rec. And the others are spilled somewhere out there throughout the other departments that are there.
So you know your numbers.
I do. Well, you know, I learned a long time ago, numbers don't lie, and if you don't know your numbers, you don't know the story.
Well, I tell you what, you're very impressive with everything that you do. I've been in a lot of new meetings with the public who probably maybe have not seen you in the fullness of your role until just recently, and compliment after compliment comes in. Wow. She knows her stuff. Yeah. And you do. And we're excited to have you as our city manager. And thank you for being with us on Meet City Hall.
Well, thank you.